the lecture series organized by the Department of English, Kaliyaganj College, in collaboration with IQAC Kaliyaganj College. In the first two sessions, the topics were Mary Wollstonecraft's The Vindication of the Rights of Woman and Research Methodology in the Humanities, respectively. And today's topic is The Ghosts of Justice and the Game of Dice, a reading of the Sabha Parva of the Mahabharata. This lecture series is mostly targeted at our students, but everybody can join. And with such an eminent speaker as Dr. Anirban Bhattacharjee from Santipur College, I'm sure that everybody will be benefited from this lecture. Now I request our Honorable Principal Sir, Dr. Piyush Kumar Das, who has been a constant source of inspiration and who has provided all sorts of help and support whenever needed to make this lecture series a reality, to deliver the welcome address. Sir, please.
Am I audible?
You are audible. Yes, sir.
Good morning to everybody. Dr. Anirban Bhattacharjee, Chief Speaker of today's program, Assistant Professor, Santipur College, my colleagues, my non-teaching friends, and my beloved students. I welcome all of you in this program. I am really happy that the English department of our college is going to organize the third lecture of special lecture series in collaboration with IQAC of our college. The first lecture was in offline mode, the second was in online mode, and this is also in online mode. Few other departments have also started this activity, that is special lecture series. So I think that we are organizing this program very effectively. I told you before that this type of program, that is seminar, workshop, symposia, special lecture series, have a different and effective educative value. Here there is opportunity for exchange of views, thoughts, feelings, emotions, etc. among the students, among the teachers, and also among the students and teachers in respect of our traditional college teaching learning environment. Anyway, the topic of today's program is the ghost of justice and the game of this, a reading of the Sabha Parva of Mahabharata. We all know that Ramayana, Mahabharata, Ved, Punnas, and like that, all are Hindu mythology, and all of us have a primary idea about it, and based on that primary idea, let me allow to share my feelings about today's topic. We know Mahabharata is one of the greatest epic in the Hindu mythology, which has universality all around the world, and the game of this was the traumatic turning point. Now, what is about the game of this in Mahabharata? We know Shakuni, the maternal uncle of Duryodhan, Dushasana, etc., advises them that the Pandav brothers cannot be defeated in a battle or by virtuous means. The only way to vanquish them is to exploit the weakness of Yudhishthir, his fondness of gambling. Duryodhan asks Dhritarashtra. You know that Dhritarashtra was the father of Duryodhana, Dushasana, etc., and also the uncle of Yudhishthir, Bhim, Arjun. So Duryodhana asked Dhritarashtra to exploit Yudhishthir's weakness over the game of dice. They asked Shakuni to tempt and defeat Yudhishthir. Shakuni provokes Yudhishthir for the game of dice. Yudhishthir falsely shows the reluctance to gambling. Shakuni mocks him, and Yudhishthir accepts the provocation, bets his kingdom, his brothers, himself, and finally his wife in the 20th round of the game of this. Shakuni wins everything by every time, we know. Draupadi is humiliated in the assembly hall. Upset Draupadi then questions the game, argues that she is not owned by Yudhishthir or she is not a property. The 20th round was then flawed because it wrongfully treated her as property. Everyone in the assembly hall, including Yudhishthir and Dhritarashtra, agree. The entire gambling game is declared invalid, and Yudhishthir recovers everything he had lost. This is the first phase, I think. And then Yudhishthir is again invited back for the game of dice. Dhritarashtra bets kingdom of Hastinapur, and Yudhishthir bets kingdom of Indraprastha. They agreed that the loser will go to exile for 12 years, and the next year, there is a 13th year, unrecognized in some inhabited place. And if they are recognized in that 13th year, then they would have to go exile for another 12 years. We know that Yudhishthir loses the game of this again. The Pandav brothers move into exile. Dhritarashtra, that is Duryodhana Dushasana, comes in power. So I think this is the gist or essence of the game of dice in Mahabharata. We all know that the game of dice was a conspiracy adopted by Shakuni. The materials of the dice was not proper. Perhaps those were the backbone of Shakuni's father. And so Shakuni, on behalf of the Kaurav, cheated Pandav. It is clear to us. So this game of dice had a crucial significance in the great epic Mahabharata, because if there would have been no game of dice, then there would have been no disgrace or humiliation of Pandav and molestation of Queen Draupadi. This molestation was the real provocation point which shown the seeds of Kurukshetra war and the destruction of Kuru land. This game and its consequences can be taken as a great lesson for generation to generation, that the women are meant to be respected and admired, and the one who disregards or humiliates them have to face grave consequences with the course of time. I should stop here because you are waiting to listen from Anirban. Actually, today in morning I saw a post in our group that Anirban has edited a book named Mahabharata Himsa. I saw the last the note in the last in the back page, And reading that note, I think the consequences or the position or the stand of Mahabharata in respect of the present social, economical and political situation has been considered in that book. I think so. Anyway, it is a very encouraging and interesting. So the book which has been edited by Anirban. So if I get the chance, then I shall definitely go that book. Anyway, let me allow to conclude here with the hope that we shall be able to enrich ourselves about the today's topic from Anirban's speech. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this brilliant prelude to the session with very close textual description and also your encouraging remarks about our department. Thank you, sir, for everything. Now I request Professor Tusharkanti Kormakar, Head of the Department of English, Kaliyaganj College, to introduce Dr. Anirban Bhattacharjee, who is today's speaker, and we all are eagerly waiting for his speech. So I request Professor Kormakar to introduce.
Sharmanda, am I audible?
Yes, you're very much audible.
Perfectly audible.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the third lecture of the lecture series organized by the Department of English in collaboration with IQAC Kaliyaganj College. Respected Principal Sir, IQAC Coordinator, NAC Coordinator, Teachers Council Secretary, respected colleagues from Kaliyaganj College as well as from other institutions, my dear students, and the honorary speaker of this session, Dr. Anirban Bhattacharjee. Before introducing our speaker, let me thank our esteemed principal, Dr. Piyush Kumar Das, whose unwavering support for academic activities has made this lecture series possible. I would also like to thank Dr. Shantu Chakraborty, NAC coordinator, for his active cooperation. Dr. Anirban Bhattacharjee is a very well-known name in the Mahabharata studies in India today, and it is a privilege and honor to welcome Anirban Bhattacharjee for this session today. Thank you, Anirban, for accepting our proposal to deliver this special lecture. Dr. Anirban Bhattacharjee teaches English literature at Santipur College, University of Kalyani. He is also an adjunct professor at the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, ISAR, Kolkata. He has completed his PhD from Center for Studies in Social Science, Kolkata, and Jadavpur University. He has published widely in the fields of post-colonial studies, cultural studies, critical theory, Indian philosophy, Mahabharata studies, and 19th century Bengal. He has delivered public lectures at various universities like Presidency, Jadavpur, Hyderabad, Delhi, Jawaharlal Nehru University, IIT Guwahati, and the Indian Institute of Advanced Study, Simla. He has also delivered lectures at the 13th and 18th South Asian Literary Association Conference in Boston and New York, USA. Professor Bhattacharjee is also a prolific writer in Bengali language, and his most recent work is Mahabharata Hingsa. With this note, I request Dr. Bhattacharjee to deliver his lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Piyush, for this generous introduction, and I would like to thank our honorable principal, sir, for his brilliant prelude to the discussion, and my dear colleague, Sharanno, and other faculty members for the invitation to deliver the lecture. Namami Narayana Pada Pankajam Karami Narayana Pujanam Sada Vadami Narayana Nama Nirmalam Sarami Narayana Tattva. The Mahabharata actually begins with this sort of self-surrendering, because the act of writing in terms of phenomenological thinking, a kind of experiential kind of move, a wounding of the unadulterated, the pure and the puerile. In my presentation, I will discuss firstly about the dialectic of chaos and order in the game of dice, Yudhishthira's pathological addiction to it, the unavoidable snare attached and attuned with the idea of overlordship and gambling as a method of self-punishment. And secondly, I will spotlight and analyze how in the course of the game, Draupadi, the resplendent queen, Panchali, is reified as a thing, an object without will, without any agential power to act. And finally, I would attempt to see the moment as the moment of the interruption of the ethical, which actually remains by coming. So the Sabha Parva of the Mahabharata is the climactic moment and a fantastically crafted episode, the most compelling and captivating moment of dice duel that bears open the unconscious of the text, if I am permitted to say in that psychoanalytic term, bursting forth the grand scale of violence and war which is just arriving. And our masterclass filmmaker Satyajit Ray contemplated on making a movie of the Sabha Parva with an elaborate plan to have an international cast, including Japanese actor Toshiro Mifune of Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon and Seven Samurai. But no money-back investment came forward to fund the film, and Ray was forced to drop the project actually. The first question that sparks up as I read into the text is why Yudhishthira had no option but to play the dice, and why it became a structural necessity for him to enter the dice duel. And Van Buitenen, in her book, and also Alf Hilterweitel's book, they have argued and unraveled that why Yudhishthira must dice is accounted for within the framework of the Vedic Rajasya ritual that he as king has to perform. And Buchanan has argued that the Sabha Parva is the epic dramatization of the Vedic ritual wherein dicing is mandatory after the Abhisheka. The consecration of the king is performed. And scholars have argued that dicing as integral to the Rajasya or chariot racing to the Vajpayee ritual. We have to remember that a ritual is something that is a routine-like thing that is attached and attuned with our everyday living, everyday kind of normative kind of thinking and living. And ritual is an integral part, ritual sacrifice is an integral part of Purva Mimamsa discourses, where you have to perform as an active agent, Nitya, Naimittic, and Vedic sacrifices every day. And there are different kind of categories are there. And this ritual of dice after the Rajasya therefore became an integral part as far as the idea of overlordship is concerned. And it is again a way of defining Rajya, the kingdom, a means of acquiring Adhipatya or lordship, and more pertinently Samrajya or overlordship. And clearly then the Rajasya must trigger off a chain of events, and the dicing game that follows the Rajasya must take place in order to complete the claim over overlordship. And Kauravas must challenge the claim, given that they see themselves as senior branch and the legitimate heirs of the Kuru kingdom. So dicing, as far as Hilterweitel's and Buchanan's arguments are concerned, therefore an inevitable kind of thing, and Kshatriya claiming overlordship, Yudhishthira had no option but to play the dice. That is the first point. And now what is this game of dice? A game, of course, implies a rule, an order of things. But what is interesting is that there is chaos and disruption inbuilt and organic to the game, and how it is connected, how it is inbuilt, how it is organic to the order of things, to the order of the game, order of the thing. Unlike other games, the game of dice actually breaks open the possibility of predictability because it concerns the luck or the fate of the player, who is mesmerized by the rapidity with which luck turns during the play. He is just hooked by it. The great gambler, one whose passion is gaming, is punctiliously recorded by Fyodor Dostoevsky in his famous novel, 1867, The Gambler. And we see the Dostoevskian hero has been composed of pathological addiction to gambling, a severe kind of neurosis, a strong destructive instinct directed mainly against his own person. So gambling is attached, as far as the Freudian discourse or psychological discourse is concerned, a kind of self-destructive, aggressive destruction, a kind of destructiveness toward myself, against my own person, which triggers a kind of masochistic, self-inflicting impulse that of constrained gambling as a method of self-punishment. That is the first point. An aksha, the die, usually made of the fruits of vihitak, in Italian it is Termelia billerica, tree, each of the size of a hazelnut, was 4 dotted. And dot of 4 was called krita, and those of 3, 2, and 1 are called treta, dapara, and kali. The final one, that is called kali. The throw from a lot of dice onto the game board yields the 4 following results. If the total count is divisible by 4, the thrower obtained krita, that is the supreme one, or the winning. If after dividing it by 4, the remainder were 3, it obtained treta, treya. And if 2, dapara. And if 1, what he earned is nothing else but kali, which is called losing of the game. And what is interesting is that number 4 is very important as far as Indian self-thinking is concerned. If one navigates the ocean of Indian text, we can have in a very brief, charted and quick glimpse that there are 4 Vedas: Rig Ved, Samved, Yajurved, Atharvaved. We have 4 Varnas, and the rank and prestige signified by the 4 Varnas. And we have stipulated stages of life, 4 ashramas, and also 4 vargas, endowments of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Customary as well as customized propriety material, gain, pleasures, love and lust, deliverance. And finally, 4 yogas, that is ages construed by progressive degenerations and regenerations, Krita, Treta, Dapar, and Kali. The first, the supreme one, are also called Shatyayug. But how the dice game is looked at and conceived in ancient Indian Shruti and Smriti texts. If we look into Rig Veda, that we can have Rig Veda 10th mandala and 34th hymn. There is the fabulous hymn that explores the psychological trappings of the feeling of involuntariness that seizes a man whenever he engages in a dice game. And one of the most lasting documents of human pathos, and that is the very intimate and intense kind of experience of a bankrupt gambler. Sasrudeshati jaya apo runadinathita marditam nabindate. There is that kind of penitential gambler, that he is saying that my wife drives me away, her mother hates me, the wretched man finds none to give him comfort, and I find no more use in a gambler than in an aged horse which is for sale. So this is there in the Rig Veda. And Maurice Winton is one most influential commentator and important textual critic of Mahabharata, considered the poem as the most beautiful among the non-religious poems of the Rig Veda. And there are various descriptions of gambling and analysis and all these in Kautilya's Arthashastra, and he maps a cluster of vices springing from excessive desire in terms of the magnitude of damage caused by them in the book 8, section 3 of Kautilya's political treatise Arthashastra. And there the vices are the 4 important vices, the sign of O, craft of the. Can you hear? Sorry, you are kind of distant.
Panivanda, you are audible. Continue, please.
Yes. So hunting, gambling, women, and drinking. And Kautilya expresses his repugnance for gambling by translating its moral hazards in the language of health hazard. He warns the gambler irregular in habits is prone to contracting stomach, urinary, and viral disorders. So the idea of gambling, the idea is that the gambling is something which is attuned with the physique, the physical, the body, the bodily disorders. So the play, the game is affecting on the body, the physical. That is very interesting. And Kautilya disagrees with the earlier commentators, like other Shruti commentators, that as far as the rank of gambling in the hierarchy of vices are concerned, he considers it more harmful than hunting and drinking, but less calamitous than womanizing, lusting after women. So, and Kautilya introduces a brilliant metaphor to illustrate how impossibly difficult it is to get out of the clutches of gambling. And he says, that is there in the 8th chapter, 53th verse, that the same wager owned by one is to the loser a fish hook, which becomes a source of enmity. A gambler never knows how much wealth he has got, tries to enjoy wealth which he has got, which he has not got, and loses it because before he can enjoy it. So the idea of losing and being lost is the ultimate thing that the game of dice actually forbears as a foreboding. That is very important. So idea of losing and being lost, that is also attached and attuned with the conceptualization of gambling as a game, the game of dice. And now let us look into the game of dicing as it proceeds in the Sabha Parva. And again, one is struck by the choice of players. And as Principal Sir has elaborated in the inaugural speech, that the ritual of dicing after the Rajeshya ritual is played between the 2 parties, not 2 individuals. And this is again as the claimant of overlordship, Samrajya, and Yudhishthira perhaps must necessarily play, but one part of the challengers, there appears to be some latitude in who will play, as long as it is clear on whose behalf the dice is being thrown, and his right of ownership over when he is staked. And here Shakuni plays on behalf of Duryodhana, but it is the latter who will pay for the stake. And as the game begins, it becomes clear that Shakuni will play on behalf of Duryodhana, and Yudhishthira protests somewhat mildly at this arrangement. And there is suggestion that kings should settle their conflicts like real Kshatriyas through means other than dicing. And this mild intervention makes no difference, and the game begins. So that is a crucial moment, that Yudhishthira protests somewhat mildly, this arrangement and this mindless, that mild intervention actually makes no difference. That is important. That is very important. And the number of throws, as is said in the two lots of 10 throws and 20 in all, the stakes progressively move upward, directly related to the order of the dispensability in terms of kingdom and kingship. First, the two parties take wealth in the form of priceless gems, chariots, elephants, mix of inanimate and animate objects, going on to the dashes, slaves, female slaves who are bejeweled, who are told, and chariots with skilled charioteers making up to 10 sticks. At this halfway point, Vidura, we see, that tries to halt the second set of stakes to be made, because he is fearful and aware that as the items to be staked are moving higher in terms of value, sooner or later kingdom will be staked, and he urges Dhritarashtra to stop the game. And since Vidura fails to persuade Dhritarashtra, the dicing continues, and soon enough the kingdom with all its inhabitants, except the Brahmanas are not into this thing. They are outside this game they are considered outsiders, and they remain at the outside, at the torus of the game of dicing. Also, they are also participating. So a kind of a liminal space they have when the game of dice has been played. So they are not staked. And losing that, Yudhishthira moves on to stake Pandava princess, all sons of Draupadi, and then his brothers, moving from the youngest to the oldest, and all are lost by the 18th throw. And finally, Yudhishthira himself stakes himself and loses. The last throw is still late, and thus arrives the critical moment of the entire game. And this is a very crucial moment as far as the Mahabharata text is concerned. We see that Mahabharata is considered not only a text rather than a non-text. Its magnitude, its criticality, and its multivocal or polyphonic utterances so is always moving beyond these borders. So the staking of Draupadi, doubling up in a persona as Sri, standing with honor as the king's wife, as well as symbolizing the sovereignty. That is a very crucial moment. But we see that there are some slokas which is considered as interpolation as far as the main text is considered. If there is the idea of main or principal kind of thing is there, because there are various reasons as far as the Mahabharata text is considered, and they are continuously in a process of constitutions in the process. And there are northern recensions, southern recensions, and all these interpolations are there. So this section where Draupadi is considered as the Sri with her resplendence, the maternal figure with all her opulence and plenitude, that is not there in the principal Mahabharata. That is a confusion. That is an interpolation, or is there in the main text, that can be questioned. And in Haridas Siddhanta Bhagish's translation, that is in the subsection, and a number of slokas, I think 5 or 6 slokas are there, which is not in the kind of principal text. So Draupadi is symbolizing sovereignty inseparable from the earth and kingdom. Position and control is being staked at the moment. And if the throws of the dice in the game are almost frenetic in the intensity of the timing, the sequence of events that lead to the staking of Draupadi are almost surreal. And when 19 throws are over and all are won by Sakuni, it suggests that there is one more position that Yudhishthira can still wager: the precious queen. This way the king can win himself back along with Draupadi. If she is staked, and if Yudhishthira succeeds in winning the final throw, And immediately, as if no ifs and buts, Yudhishthira goes on to the unreal dreamlike moment, describing Draupadi graphically in terms of different body parts interpersed with the elements evoking her tree-like persona, along with qualities of mind and heart, especially her non-cruel nature, Nrishangsha, which Hiltebeitel, Mukunlad, and a number of commentators interpreted marvelously for us. So this is a very important moment when Yudhishthira for the first time talked about the supreme value of non-cruelty or Nrishangsha, and as part of Draupadi's characteristic condition. And if we divert for a little moment, to digress at this moment, that the idea of Nrishangsha is very much important as far as the Mahabharata narrative is concerned. Mahabharata is constantly talking about the idea of ahimsa, non-violence, and Alf Hiltebeitel, rethinking the Mahabharata and variations on the idea or ideology or the construction of Yudhishthira in his book, famously pointed out that Mahabharata is a pravrittimarg text, and he is pointing out that the Brahminical, as far as Brahminical values are concerned, the category of non-violence, the Jain-like or Buddhist-like Sraman idea of non-violence that reinforced during the pre-Samanic Upanishad text, that non-violence is the highest or supreme value. But we find that the genealogical root of Nrishangsha, explicated in the Parva letter, comes just later, that came from not from Brahmana, but from just a minute, but from Dharmabad, who is a Sudra. So Mahabharata is constantly moving into the confusion about its ideological principle, about its politics, because it is confusing that Draupadi is considered as a Nrishangsha king, not within the principal text.
Anirban, you are inaudible. আচ্ছা অনির্বাণের কথা শোনা যাচ্ছে?
না, আমি শুনতে পাচ্ছি না। Can't hear him.
Anirban,
his video also stopped.
Am I audible? Anirban, am I audible?
Tushar?
Yes, I am calling him.
Yeah, please call him.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Yes. So Nrishangsha is considered a middle kind of value which is poised or posed as against ahimsa, but it is something which is again connected with which is not connected with the nivritti marga, nishkama karma, all these kinds of things, but in the new world where violence is the unavoidable human factor, then Anishangsha is a kind of a reckoning that is to be considered. So we can go on in detail if there are questions regarding this. And scholars have also noted that the more frequent references to Draupadi as Panchali, which also stands for a doll in this segment of the text, alluding to the play of forces working upon her at the Sabha at Hastinapur. The description of Draupadi over the dais is thrown and proclaimed as owned by Shakuni to shouts of horror from a section of the Sabha, with Vidura collapsing in agony, but to joyous cries of the Kuru party, Dhritarashtra is elated. That moment is very important, and he is desperately asking who will win the play, who has won the game, hoping that Duryodhana, his son, that Sri will now reside with his progeny, that is the Kuru kingdom, returning the earlier undivided kingdom and sovereignty to his side. But the real drama then begins. Duryodhana demands that Vidura bring Draupadi, the beloved wife of Pandavas, whom they honor, into the Sabha. And the translation is like that, goes like this: later sweep the house, sweep the house, and run the errands. What a joy to watch with the serving wenches, that is the dasis. The word dasi occurs, as Uma Chakravarti has written elaborately in a book, occurs with frequency thenceforth till the battle over Draupadi is over. It has been introduced earlier. Then Yudhishthira takes all his beautifully adorned dasis at the beginning of the game. For Duryodhana, Draupadi has already become his dasi after his last throw, and he must therefore assert his mastery and control over her, making her act according to his commands. But there are obstructions. Duryodhana's first instruction to Vidura to bring Draupadi into the Sabha is thwarted. Vidura rejected. He objects, countering Duryodhana's attempt to demonstrate his control over Draupadi by raising the legal question that will ultimately hang over the assembly once it is posed by her. That is, was the stake a valid one? It is framed somewhat more hesitantly by Vidura.
Tushar, there must be some network issue. Please call him again.
Give us just a moment. There is some network issues with Anirban. We are extremely sorry for the inconvenience caused. Probably there are some network issues with Anirban. He will join shortly. Please bear with us. Thank you.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Anirban, please continue.
Yeah. So I couldn't join through my computer. So this time from the cell phone.
Okay, no problem. Anirban, continue, please.
Yes, yes. So the question is that became very important when Draupadi is staked as a property. Then Vidura asked, "What's the stake is a valid one?" The logic is that Draupadi was staked when the king was no longer his own master, leaving the implications that the position unstated but highly suggestive. And Duryodhana contemptuously dismisses Vidura's opinion by totally disregarding it. As a Dashiputra, it seems that Vidura does not count, and this may also be one reason why it is he who is asked by Duryodhana to bring Draupadi to the Sabha, even though there are other potential candidates present and willing to execute this job. And then the Duryodhana commanded Pratikami, the charioteer, himself a shooter, to bring Draupadi in. And there is something poignant about Vidura's refusal to be a party of the humiliation of Draupadi, because that something Bhishma is so complicit with it, complicitly connected. It is as if Vidura's own antecedents as the son of a Dashi, he knows what the life of a Dashi is, and so does not want Draupadi to be reduced to that position, to a position similar to that of his mother, a woman who won her freedom by sexually servicing Vyasa when Ambika asked her to sleep with Vyasa instead of her. So when Pratikami entered Draupadi's room, or Draupadi's bedchamber, he addressed Draupadi as Yagdaseni, a patronymic derived from Jagdasena, another name for her father Drupada. And he said, "Come enter the house of Dhritarashtra to your course. I must lead you, Yagdaseni." And armed with information about the sequence of stakes, all her other husbands, and not like Yudhishthira, have lost their mastery over themselves, Draupadi frames the question again and placed it, "Whom did you lose first, yourself or me?" So that is very important. And that came time and again as far as the mistake is concerned. I cannot still join in through my computer. I don't know what happened here. Problem loading page.
But we can hear you perfectly. Please carry on.
Yes. So the most important question is that is very important. Whom did you lose first, yourself or me? And it is the puzzling moment, because the woman already reified at that and reduced to the theme. is considered as a property, or she is reduced to her dasidom, that actually challenges and asks an interactive question. That is the point. So what the logic here is that the woman is considered as a property, she is reduced as a thing, she is reified as an object without will. But at this point, she is positing a challenge, she is questioning. So questioning, though being a property, that is a very interactive moment, an unsettling moment. By asking the question, she is actually epistemologically subjectificating herself. That is a moment of contradiction. That is the very important critical moment that I am pointing out in my lecture, in my discussion here. That is the most critical moment as far as Sabha Parva is concerned. I think that is the very base point or foundational point through which we can move into the other discourses of Mahabharata that actually placing before him, and that is the most puzzling moment, a moment of contradiction, because Draupadi is considered or reified to the status of Dasi, but she is questioning and challenging and putting up a valid question. Is this take a valid one? It was in Homer's Odyssey, book 18, that Odysseus making an entry into the court of Penelope disguised as a beggar. The rich nobleman who first saw the muscular man with perfectly crafted abs yes. Am I visible?
Yes, Anirban, you are visible now.
Yes. So if we move in other direction to catch up this point and to highlight or spotlight this very important moment as far as the Mahabharata text is concerned, that is this take a valid one? That is the contradictory point. That is the puzzling moment in Mahabharata, that a woman who is considered a dasi reified to the status of a thing, the thingness, the object without will, but she is questioning and challenging the whole structure and the stature of the kingdom by putting before a valid and legal question. And in Odyssey, book 18, we see Odysseus coming into the court of Penelope with perfectly crafted herbs, but in tattered, ragged clothes, and asks the question, first question, stranger, will you become my thing, my servant? That is in Homer's Odyssey. That Penelope, seeing Odysseus with the muscular man, but in tattered, ragged clothes, a poverty-stricken kind of face, and Penelope asked the first question to him, that stranger, will you become my thing, my servant? And that question actually assumed a significant shape and became the question in Karl Marx's 1843 book on the Jewish question, in which he basically deals with the question of human alienation, but Marx actually delves into the functioning of the invisible but perceptible contract which guarantees the right of the new master to manipulate the allegedly free human beings as things, as objects without will. That is the first, that is the idea of master-slave relationship, and that is first articulated, brilliantly articulated by Hegel in his Phenomenology of the Subjective Spirit. And that is the basic human condition that that is we can if we if we consider it from a theoretical point of view, that is the first very important question ontologically determinant, that is the natural unmediatedness of being, of the body being naturally unmediated. That in the Hegelian group, the first question that is being put as far as Hegel's philosophy of spirit is concerned, philosubjective spirit is concerned, that the body in its natural form, naturally unmediated, das naturliche Unmittelwehr in German term, before being linguistified. Therefore, the question that Penelope asked, and I am connecting it with the question that is Draupadi put forward before the whole the people, the gang of the royal members, that is the stake a valid one, that I am at this moment reified and subjected and reduced to the status of a dasi, to servitude, serfdom. How is it being possible? Because it is happening at the moment when a masterless man is putting before the stake. Lordless yet lorded moment. And that is the moment of the interruption of the ethical that I am highlighting or spotlighting at this moment. Because as we see, when Penelope sees the stranger who is coming into the court, and Odysseus with muscular figure but poverty-stricken limbs, he is asked, stranger, will you be my king, my servant? That servitude is a kind of natural thing as far as, and this has been elaborately analyzed by Aristotle. And the body, the completely unmediated, and when not yet linguistified, not yet into the world of language, then the question is that body being naturally unmediated is considered the body of servitude or serfdom. And that is the moment, the terribly unsettling moment, when the ethical remains by coming, that never arrives. And cornered, Draupadi runs for shelter towards the women, but Dushashan, in the later part of the narrative, grabs her by her hair, and the very hair that had been anointed earlier because she had performed the ritual functions of the queen and Yudhishthira's Abhisheka, and so the text tells us. But the Kuru queen, representing earth, kingdom, Sri, and sovereignty, can be forcibly wrested to change side if she resists. And Pandavas was unmanned, leaving Draupadi unprotected amidst her protectors. And that is the very crucial moment in the Mahabharata text, in the Sabha Parva, that Pandavas are considered unmanned, that martiality, that masculinity is undermined at this moment. And Draupadi remained unprotected, unguarded. So the notion of the patriarchal subordination and domination, all these things are coming into it. That Draupadi at this moment is considered unprotected amidst protectors, and very, very, very crucial moment in the text. And when she tells the Dushasana that she is in her monthly courses, she is menstruating at the moment and clad only in a single garment and cannot be taken into the Sabha in that condition. The woman menstruating at this moment in the in a monthly course, monthly period, and Dushasana is taunting her, be in your month, Jaggashana's daughter, or wear a lone cloth or go without one. You have been won at the game and made a slave. So Draupadi is putting before us and before the audience and before the whole royal kingdom that if the stake is a valid one, and if the slave himself, Yudhishthira, as he is talking about Yudhishthira, who had lost his status as a master before he staked her, Yudhishthira no longer has mastery over her, and therefore she is free from the power of her husband and master. Perhaps he is also suggesting that therefore she could be regarded as having returned to her premarital Kshatriya princess status, as the daughter of a king, if not the wife of a king. and in such position she cannot be staked and therefore enslaved. And Duryodhana is tacitly admitting the question, Draupadi's question, as being justified. That is also a very important moment. And not surprisingly, in keeping with the uncertain moral stances and his inability to take decision, Bhishma, the elderly statesman, entered the scene, and he is justifying that the stake is a valid one. First, by stating that a man without property, which Yudhishthira now is, as one reduced to a dasha, cannot stake another's property, so in a sense the stake is ambiguous. But wives are counted among the goods of the husbands, so in the sense the stake is valid. So Draupadi is doubly refined, and Bhishma, in a staggering, uncertain moment, is validating and justifying the question if the stake is a valid one. And he said that this is an ambiguous state because Duryodhana, Yudhishthira is the masterless man at this moment and reduced to a dasha, so he cannot stake another's property. But as women and wives are counted as among the goods of the husband, so in the sense the stake is valid. And that is the very, very unsettling patriarchal moment. That is, the Mahabharata text is actually making into puzzle, into that ethical conduit is creating that puzzle. And in both formulations, Draupadi is already refined, subjected, reduced to a thingness. She could have been staked as property as Yudhishthira while he was free, but he was not. So there is an ambiguity at his taking. As a wife, Draupadi is refined as she is a thing to be included in the total goods of her husband. So there is an ambiguity there too. Thus for Bhishma, the patriarchal law is the husband is permanently the master of his wife. And that is the monoist dictum, Dasasya Shudram Dijanmanam. The woman is considered as Dashi, as like the Shudras. Although in the monoist charter of the universe, the four varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, are considered into the mechanism who can perform the ritual that I was talking about, that everything is considered a kind of ritual living. You have to perform the Nitya, Anitya, Naimittik and Kamma karmas. But the Shudra is barred, hindered from doing any kind of ritual sacrifices. And the woman is considered who cannot take part in the ritual sacrifice. And there are a lot of ambiguous slokas and all other things. But here, Bhishma's dictum is that Draupadi, because she is now Yudhishthira's wife, and she can be refined as thing and considered an object without will, considered a dashi at this moment. That stake is a valid one. But and Dushasana uses the moment to grasp Draupadi by her hair and drags her into the hall, proclaiming that one can lynch the Dasis, and laughing at the humbling of Draupadi, the queen of Pandavas. And unable to stand humiliation of Draupadi, reduced to the status of Dashi at the stake, Bhima actually berates Yudhishthira for using his mastery over her through such an act that the worst common gambler would not be guilty of, even with the horse, Mandakis, in their country, suggesting the extreme level of reification in the staking of Draupadi. Bhima is actually challenging this, questioning this, interrogating that stake. And Dhritarashtra, anxious cry that has he won, has he won, rhymes perfectly with that sloka on the Rig Veda, 10th Mandala 34, that asking oneself, the great gambler, will I win? Trembling with hope, the gambler goes into the meeting hall. And Dhritarashtra is actually psychically oriented toward reckless gambling. The Kuru Lord is the trickster and directing the sham show from behind. So the point is that Mahabharata at this moment is toward the moment of the eruption of the ethical and the interruption of the ethical, because here the question of justice never arrived, and throughout the course of the narrative till the end, Mahabharata is constantly appeals for and advances the idea of non-cruelty, anusangsha. If not, it is ahimsa or non-violence. But as violence, as we see in the Sabha Parva, beginning of the Sabha Parva, the Druta Krida and Anudruta Krida, violence and cruelty are unavoidable human condition, ultimate manifestation of biological life attuned with an increasing technicity of human life, constantly legitimized and instrumentally justified. Then how one can imagine an approach towards the impossible beyond of sovereign cruelty? That is the question. But this is the moment of la jouissance de la faire violence, the pleasure of doing violence at every moment. And Vyasa, the author, who is constantly writing, and that writing as the wound that I actually began with the point, act of writing as wounding into the unadulterated, into the pure and puerile body of the space, ends his book, the narrative, the master narrative, lamenting that he is crying in the wilderness, in the forest, raising both of his hands with, but no one is listening. The question is, who will utter the just words? Who will be the parrhesiastic figure to speak the truth? The fearless speech is something we are yet to hear. Thank you.
I really fall short of words to thank Dr. Bhattacharjee for this mesmerizing speech on the game of dice in Mahabharata. An episode which we have been reading since our childhood and which is very much a part of our collective memories. Dr. Bhattacharjee makes many concepts clear, interrogates many transparent assumptions, and makes wonderful references to a wide array of texts and theories, from Kautilya's Arthashastra to Manu Samhita to Dostoevsky's The Gambler, Hegel's theory of dialectics, and feminist theories in general. Because I personally always studied Mahabharata only from a very surface level, and I never scratched the surface, the experience of listening to this speech, I was almost carried back to my student life. I was enjoying this speech as if I was sitting in a class, and I'm sure that our students also found this speech very much enjoyable and enlightening. So now it's time for the question answer session. The floor is open. I request all my colleagues and students to ask the questions which have been triggered in their mind by this mesmerizing speech.
Thank you, Sharanya. Thank you very much. As তুষার যেটা আমাকে বললো সেটা হচ্ছে যে যদি কিছুটা বাংলায় আলোচনা করা যায় ছাত্রছাত্রীদের সুবিধার্থে, সেটা যদি কারো কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে বাংলায় করা যেতে পারে, আর যদি কোনো কনফিউশন থাকে ব্যাপারটাকে আমি আরেকবার নয় চেষ্টা করতে পারি ইলাবোরেট করার জন্য।
Thank you. So let's see whether...
Thank you, Anirban.
Till now, I don't see any questions.
এটা কি স্টুডেন্টসদের কারিকুলামের মধ্যে আছে? এটা ওদের পাঠ্যের অন্তর্গত?
Yes, it is in the syllabus.
Then they should ask questions.
It's there in 4th semester. So the 4th semester students can definitely ask the question. Okay, Onkon Paul has asked, sir, what is the idea of dharma and justice here? Onkon Paul, our 4th semester student, has asked, sir, what is the idea of dharma and justice here?
Onkon, thank you for the question. It's a very important question. খুবই গুরুত্বপূর্ণ এই প্রশ্নটা। আমি একটুখানি আমার আলোচনাটা মানে ছাত্রছাত্রী যারা আছে তাদের জন্য একটুখানি মানে শেষের দিকটা বেশ মানে আমার মনে হলো ক্রিটিক্যাল, যেহেতু আমি কলেজে এই টেক্সটগুলো পড়াই বা অন্যান্য জায়গায় আলোচনা করি। সেই জায়গা থেকে আমি বলতে চাই যেটা যে টাইটেল যেটা ছিল দ্য গোস্ট অফ জাস্টিস এবং ধর্ম, এটা খুব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ একটি প্রশ্ন। তার কারণ হচ্ছে যে ভারতীয় দর্শনে বিশেষত এই মহাভারত কেন্দ্রিক টেক্সটের মধ্যে ধর্ম এবং ধর্ম একই অর্থে জাস্টিস, আবার একই অর্থে এথিক্স, এবং ধর্ম হচ্ছে এমন একটা জিনিস যেটা প্রতিদিন আমাদেরকে ধারণ করে রাখে। যেটা আমি বলার চেষ্টা করলাম যে রিচুয়াল লিভিং, যে প্রতিদিন আমাদেরকে নিত্যকর্ম, নৈমিত্তিক কর্ম, কাম্যকর্ম এর মধ্যে দিয়ে যেতে হয়, এবং এটা হচ্ছে আমাদের প্রবৃত্তি মার্গের বা গৃহকেন্দ্রিক যে ধর্ম বা গৃহকেন্দ্রিক যে চলন বা যাপন, তার একটা অন্যতম গুরুত্বপূর্ণ বিষয়। কিন্তু মহাভারতে এমন কিছু কিছু মোমেন্ট আছে যেখানে গৃহবাদী দর্শনের যে বিপরীত বা প্রতিবাদী বা প্রতি অক্ষের যে ভাবনা, যেটা কিনা সন্ন্যাস বা বলা যেতে পারে যে শ্রমণ ধর্ম, সেখানে কিন্তু এই ধর্মের ব্যাপারটা অন্যরকম ভাবে আসে। গৃহকেন্দ্রিক দর্শনে, যে কারণে আমি ওই নৃশংস শব্দটা ব্যবহার করলাম, যে ভারতীয় দর্শনের দুটো ধারা রয়েছে। একটু যদি গোড়ার কথা বলি, একটাকে বলা হয় অর্থোডক্স, আরেকটাকে বলা হয় হেটেরোডক্স। অর্থোডক্স হচ্ছে ব্রাহ্মণ্যবাদী ধারা, আর হেটেরোডক্স হচ্ছে শ্রমণবাদী। ব্রাহ্মণ্যবাদী ধারার মধ্যে বিভিন্ন ধরনের সিস্টেম রয়েছে, অদ্বৈত, দ্বৈত, দ্বৈতাদ্বৈত, বিশিষ্টাদ্বৈত, এরকম 6 ধরনের, লোকায়ত, নানান ধরনের রয়েছে সিস্টেম। সেখানে আমাদের চলার কিছু নিদান দেওয়া হয়েছে, চলার জন্য কিছু ইনস্ট্রাকশনস আছে, কিছু প্রেসক্রিপশনস আছে, which is again connected with the self subjection of the subject। মানে আমাদের সবসময় ওই নিদানকে ফলো করে করে যেতে হয়। এবং এটা মজার ব্যাপার হচ্ছে, সেখানে এই যে আমি নিদানটাকে ফলো করছি, আমি যে কাজগুলো করছি, সেখানে আমার ভলান্টারিজমটা, আমার যে স্বেচ্ছায় কিছু করার যে ভাবনা, সেই ব্যাপারটা অনেকটা প্রশমিত, অবদমিত, সেটা খুব একটা নেই। আমাকে একটা স্ট্রাকচারের মধ্যে দিয়ে চলে যেতে হয়। এটাকে দার্শনিক ভাবে এবং তত্ত্বের মধ্যে দিয়ে নানান ভাবে ব্যাখ্যা করা যায়। এবং বর্তমান সময়ের যে সমস্ত দার্শনিক তত্ত্ব আছে বা বিভিন্ন ধরনের ভাবনা আমরা পাশ্চাত্য দর্শন বা অন্যান্য দর্শনের মধ্যে পাই, বিশেষ করে কন্টিনেন্টাল ফিলোসফির মধ্যে, সেখানে কিন্তু এই ব্যাপারটা খুব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ ভাবে আছে যে am I a চয়েসলেস, মানে আমার ভলান্টারিজম নেই, এরকম একটা সাবজেক্ট কিনা। ব্রাহ্মণ্যবাদী যে ধারা কাঠামো, যেটাকে ইংরেজিতে বলে অর্থোডক্স সিস্টেম, সেইখানে কিন্তু আমাকে সবসময় এই নিদানগুলো মেনে মেনে চলতে হয়। এই চলার মধ্যে ধর্মকেন্দ্রিক ভাবনাটা রয়েছে। এখানে জাস্টিসের যে ভাবনা, সেটা হচ্ছে ওই যে মেনে চলার মধ্যে দিয়েই তৈরি হবে। কিন্তু মহাভারতে এমন কিছু মোমেন্ট তৈরি হচ্ছে, বা এটা যদি আমরা সামনিক কিছু টেক্সটের মধ্যে যদি দেখতে পাই, সেখানে দেখা যাবে এই যে মেনে চলার বাইরের যে একটা বিয়ন্ড অফ থিঙ্কিং, বিয়ন্ড দ্য ক্যালকুলেবল থিঙ্কিং, তার একটা জায়গা রয়েছে। এবং এথিক্স হচ্ছে সেই জায়গাটা, দ্য মোমেন্ট অফ দ্য আনকন্ডিশনাল। ধর্ম হচ্ছে যে একটা মোরাল কন্ডিশনিং এর মধ্যে দিয়ে চলে যাওয়া, সবসময় একটা নৈতিকতার মধ্যে দিয়ে চলে যাওয়া, যেটা মহাভারত প্রতি মুহূর্তে করছে। এবং মহাভারতে যারা এই টেক্সটটা পড়ছেন এবং মহাভারত নিয়ে যারা চর্চা করছেন, তারা দেখবেন যে যুধিষ্ঠিরকে ধর্মরাজ বলে মনে করা হয়। এবং এই প্রশ্নটা এই গুরুত্বপূর্ণ এই মোমেন্টের ক্ষেত্রে, কারণ এখানে ধর্মরাজ আমরা যেটা দেখতে পাচ্ছি, এবং দ্রৌপদীও সেই প্রশ্নটা করবে, যিনি এত সম্পর্কে, এত বিষয় জগৎ জীবন সম্পর্কে সচেতন হয়েও, ধর্ম সম্পর্কে এবং ধর্মের নিজের পুত্র হয়েও, সে কিন্তু এই মোমেন্টে নিজের ধর্ম রক্ষা করতে পারছেন না। তার কারণ কি? এই মোমেন্টটা হচ্ছে যে মোমেন্ট, যিনি এই সময় নিজেই দাস, অথচ তিনি তার স্ত্রীকে স্টেক হিসাবে রাজসভাতে পেশ করছেন, কি করে সেটা পারছেন। এই মোমেন্টটা কিন্তু মহাভারতের একটা খুব মানে কুট মোমেন্ট, যেটাকে আমরা যদি একটুখানি আধুনিক তাত্ত্বিক দর্শনের জায়গা থেকে আমরা ধরার চেষ্টা করি, সেটাকে এই মোমেন্টটাকে বলা হয় অ্যাপোরেটিক মোমেন্ট বা অ্যাপোরিয়া। এটা ডিকনস্ট্রাকশন বা পোস্ট্রাকচারালিজম একটা টেকনিক্যাল টার্ম, যে মোমেন্টটা হচ্ছে আনপাসেবল ব্যারিয়ার, তুমি কখনোই সেটাকে ক্রস করতে পারছো না, তুমি একটা কনফিউশনের মধ্যে পড়ছো। এবং ধর্মরাজ যুধিষ্ঠির কিন্তু ঠিক এই মোমেন্টে এই কনফিউশনটাকেই সেটা নিজের ভেতরে পুরে নিচ্ছেন। এবং সারা মহাভারত জুড়ে, মহাভারতের এইটাই হচ্ছে বর্তমানতা, প্রেজেন্টনেস অফ দ্য টেক্সট, যে এই কনফিউশনটাকে সারা বইটা জুড়ে, সারা টেক্সটটা জুড়ে, এটাকে যদি আমরা একটা নন টেক্সট হিসেবে ভাবি, তাহলে বয়ে বয়ে নিয়ে চলছে। এবং শেষ পর্যন্ত মহাভারতের শেষও হয়ে যাচ্ছে যখন দ্রৌপদীর 5 পুত্র মারা যাচ্ছে, এবং শেষ পর্যন্ত যখন আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি অশ্বত্থামা মণিহারা হয়ে বনে গমন করছে, এবং দ্রৌপদীর তার যে বিরিডমেন্ট, তার যে শোক এবং তার যে ক্ষোভ কিছুতেই মিটছে না। এবং শেষ পর্যন্ত স্বর্গারোহণ পর্বে আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি যে দ্রৌপদী পড়ে যাচ্ছে, এবং শেষে আমি যেটা বললাম, ব্যাস শেষ পর্যন্ত বলছেন যে এই যে ভায়োলেন্স, এই যে যুদ্ধোত্তর যে হিংসা এবং প্রতিহিংসার যে এই যে নখর দাগ রক্ত, এটা কিন্তু কোনোভাবেই এটা একটা ক্রেস হিসাবে থেকে যাচ্ছে মহাভারতের ন্যারেটিভটার মধ্যে দিয়ে। তাই জন্য কেউ আমার কথা শুনছে না। আমি দুহাত তুলে উপর দিকে তাকিয়ে আমি সবাইকে আমার স্মরণ করতে, মহাভারতের টেক্সটের দিকে নজর রাখতে, আমার কথা শুনতে বলছি, কিন্তু কেউই কখনো আমার দিকে কর্ণপাত করছেন না। না চকশ্চিত শ্রীনতিমে, এই দিয়ে মহাভারত টেক্সটটা একটা শেষের দিকে যাচ্ছে। সুতরাং ধর্ম এবং জাস্টিসের ব্যাপারটা খুব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। জাস্টিস যদি আমরা বর্তমান তাত্ত্বিকতার জায়গা থেকে যদি দেখি, তাহলে yet to arrive, it is perpetually arrive, it never arrives. It is something like that there are a few alternatives at your hand, but you have to choose one of them, but each of them are equally important and validating at this moment. But when you are choosing one, that one stands out at the moment of autonomy, autonomous moment. That is the metaphysics of violence. That is the moment of violence. That is the metaphysics of justice. So just moment never arrives. That is the moment of uncalculability. And that is the moment of madness. লিগালিটি এবং জাস্টিসের মধ্যে একটা পার্থক্য আছে, যেটা আমি বলার চেষ্টা করলাম। সেটা হচ্ছে জাস্টিসের মোমেন্টটা হচ্ছে এরকম যে তোমার সামনে বা আমাদের সামনে অনেকগুলো অল্টারনেটিভ পথ রয়েছে, এবং প্রত্যেকটা পথই খুব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ, সক্রিয় এবং আমার যে সত্তা বা অস্তিত্বের সাথে যুক্ত। সুতরাং যখনই একটা পথ আমি বেছে নেব, তখনই অন্য পথগুলোকে আন্ডারমাইন করা হচ্ছে, এবং যখন একটা পথ মাথা উঁচু করে দাঁড়াবে, সেটাই হচ্ছে একটা ভায়োলেন্ট মোমেন্ট। যেমন কিনা আমরা যদি একটা উদাহরণ দিয়ে দেখাই, যে মহাভারতে একটা জায়গা রয়েছে, সেটা বনপর্বে যক্ষ যুধিষ্ঠির সংবাদ। সেখানে যখন যুধিষ্ঠিরকে যক্ষ নানান প্রশ্ন করে তাকে কাবু করতে পারছে না, এবং যুধিষ্ঠির প্রত্যেকটা প্রশ্নের উত্তর দিচ্ছে, তখন যক্ষ যেটা শেষ করলেন, যেভাবে এই সংবাদটা শেষ হচ্ছে, যে তুমি সমস্ত প্রশ্নের সব ঠিকঠাক উত্তর দিয়েছো, এবং খুব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ প্রশ্ন রয়েছে, কাচবার্তা নানান রকম রয়েছে, সবচেয়ে আশ্চর্যের বিষয় কি, কোনটা খবর, এরকম নানান রকম প্রচুর প্রশ্ন রয়েছে, এবং যুধিষ্ঠির পরপর মানে চমৎকার সমস্ত প্রশ্নের উত্তর দিচ্ছেন। এবং যখন সে ঠিকঠাক পারফর্ম করলেন প্রশ্নের উত্তর দেওয়াটা, তখন হচ্ছে যক্ষ পরীক্ষা করছেন, তাকে একটা এইরকম একটা অল্টারনেটিভের সামনে ছুড়ে দিচ্ছেন, যে তুমি তোমার ভাইদের মধ্যে যে 5 জন মারা গিয়েছে, তার মধ্যে যে কোনো একজনকে ফিরে পাবে, তুমি কাকে ফিরে পেতে চাও, এই প্রশ্নটা করবে। এইটা হচ্ছে মোমেন্ট অফ জাস্টিস। তখন যুধিষ্ঠির কি করছেন? যুধিষ্ঠির দেখছেন সামনেই যুদ্ধ, তাহলে আমার কাকে সবচেয়ে বেশি প্রয়োজন, অর্জুনকে না ভীমকে? আমার সঙ্গে কে থাকলে আমি যুদ্ধে জয় করতে পারবো? এই প্রশ্নটার মধ্যে উনি যাচ্ছেন না, উনি সামনেই দেখছেন। এই প্রশ্নগুলোর মধ্যে একটা ছিল চা নিশাংস পরধর্ম, উত্তর ছিল দুবার এসছে বনপর্বে ঠিক এই মুহূর্তে। যে নন ক্রুয়েলটি ইজ দ্য সুপ্রিম ধর্ম, ধর্ম হচ্ছে এই কথাটা। তখন যুধিষ্ঠির রেশনালাইজ করছেন, উনি বলছেন যে আমি নকুল অথবা সহদেবের মধ্যে কাউকে ফেরত পেতে চাই। তার কারণ কি, আমি কুন্তির পুত্র, আমি বেঁচে আছি, আমার আরেকজন যে মা, মাদ্রির পুত্রদের মধ্যে যে কোনো একজনকে ফিরে পেতে চাই। এই যে এইমাত্র বললাম যে অনেকগুলো হোস্ট অফ অল্টারনেটিভস আর দেয়ার, পাঁচটা অল্টারনেটিভ আমার সামনে আছে, আমি কোনটাকে চাইবো? এই মোমেন্টে যুধিষ্ঠির যেটা করছেন যে রেশনালাইজ করছেন। দ্যাট মোমেন্ট অফ rationalization is the moment when the idea of unreason, madness is subdued, is tempered down, is toned down. This is the moment of violence without violation. That is the moment of justice, which actually never arrives. It is perpetually arriving. মহাভারত হচ্ছে এই কনফিউশন, এই দ্বন্দ্বটাকে সারা টেক্সট জুড়ে বয়ে বয়ে নিয়ে যায়। সুতরাং ওই জাস্টিস আর ধর্ম কি, এটা কোনো এক কথায় উত্তর দেওয়া সম্ভব নয়, এটার নানান পরত রয়েছে উত্তরের। থ্যাংক ইউ ফর দ্য কোয়েশ্চেন।
ওকে, উই আর
আচ্ছা অনির্বাণ দা, আমি কি একটা প্রশ্ন করতে পারি?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ অবশ্যই।
আসলে আমি স্কুলে রয়েছি, ফলে
আচ্ছা আমি জানি না সময় সীমাটা কত, এটা শরণ্য হয়তো বলতে পারবেন যে
সময় নিয়ে ভাবার মতো জায়গা এখন আসেনি ব্যাপারটা।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা,
অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমি প্রথমে সরি, আজকে আমি স্কুলে এসেছি, ফলে কিছু কাজের জন্য সেমিনারটা আমি জাস্ট অন হলাম। আচ্ছা, তুমি যে মুহূর্তে এই মহাভারতের আলোচনার ক্ষেত্রে বা ভারতীয় দর্শনের ক্ষেত্রে অর্থোডক্স এবং হেটেরোডক্স যে আলোচনাটা তুমি শুরু করলে, যেখানে আমরা বিশ্বাস, আমাদের কর্তব্যবোধ, ধর্মবোধ ইত্যাদি নিয়ে যে আমরা যে আবদ্ধ, গোটা মহাভারত যে বক্তব্যটি বলছে, এই বিশ্বাসের জায়গাটা কি আমরা কিয়েরকেগার্ডিয়ান বিশ্বাসের আলোকে, অন্তত ফিয়ার অ্যান্ড ট্রেভলিং এ তিনি যেভাবে দেখাচ্ছেন, সেই আলোকে কি আমরা এটা আলোচনা করতে পারি? মানে এটাই আমার জিজ্ঞাসা।
না, এটা এর সাথে কিয়েরকেগার্ডের কোনো সম্পর্ক নেই। মানে কিয়েরকেগার্ডের যে এক্সিস্টেনশিয়াল রিজনের যে জায়গাটা, তার সঙ্গে আছে অনেকটা কিছুটা যোগসূত্র তৈরি করাই যেতে পারে, কারণ এরা সবাই হচ্ছে এভরিডে নিয়ে আলোচনা করছে, বিশেষ করে লেফেবর বা কিয়েরকেগার্ড বা অন্যরা, জিওর্গ লুকাচ, এরা যখনই এই প্রাত্যহিকতা নিয়ে আলোচনা করছেন তখন, এবং বিশেষ করে পিয়ের বর্দু, যখন আমি যে এই কারণেই বললাম যে আধুনিক তত্ত্বের কথা, যে হাবিটুস, এই যে ভাবনাটা যে আমরা একটা অভ্যেসের মধ্যে দিয়ে চলতে হচ্ছে, কিন্তু এই ভারতীয় দর্শনে বিশেষত এই যে ব্রাহ্মণিক যে কনসেপচুয়ালাইজেশন অফ ধর্ম এবং কর্ম, সেখানে হচ্ছে অব্লিগেটরি ওয়ার্কস, তোমাকে এই কাজগুলো করতেই হবে। এটা পূর্ব মীমাংসা পরিষ্কার করে বলে দেয় যে সকাল থেকে সন্ধ্যে পর্যন্ত এই নানান ধরনের প্রাতঃকর্মের মধ্যে দিয়ে, প্রাতঃকৃত্যের মধ্যে দিয়ে আমাদের করতে হবে, তার নিদান রয়েছে। সেগুলো খুব চমৎকার, মানে ওই বিভিন্ন ধরনের ইয়ে রয়েছে, এগুলোকে যজ্ঞ বলা হয়, অতিথি যজ্ঞ, নৃযজ্ঞ, এরকম মনুষ্য যজ্ঞ, এই নানান ধরনের 5 রকমের পঞ্চমহাযজ্ঞ আছে, যেগুলোকে আমাকে করে যেতে হবে। এবং সেই জায়গায় যেটা আমি প্রশ্নটা তুলছি, সেটা হচ্ছে সেইখানে আমার ভলান্টারিজমটা নেই, আমি সেখানে মানে আমার পজিশন, আমার সাবজেক্টিফিকেশনটা হচ্ছে না, আমি একজন মানে অ্যাকশনার, মানে অ্যাক্টর উইদাউট মাই ভলান্টারিজম ইনভলভড ইন ইট, এরকম একটা মানে আনথিঙ্কিং পারফর্মার, এটাকে যদি টেকনিক্যালি বলা যেতে পারে, আই এম অ্যান আনথিঙ্কিং পারফর্মার। মানে থিঙ্কিং এর ব্যাপারটা তখনই আসছে যখন ওই ডিসরাপশনটা হচ্ছে। তাই জন্য যে মানে সামান্য ধর্ম, যেসব সামনিক ধর্ম, তারা হচ্ছে কর্ম থেকে কর্ম, তারপর ধর্ম থেকে ধর্ম, এই যে ভাবনাগুলোর মধ্যে একটা র্যাডিক্যালিজম নিয়ে আসছে, যে না কর্ম থেকে কাজ, আমি যেটা করব সেখানে আমার নিজস্বতা থাকবে, আমার ভলেন্টারিজম থাকবে, আমার চয়েস থাকবে, এবং সেটা হচ্ছে র্যাডিক্যাল হবে যখন আমি ওই ব্রাহ্মণ্যবাদী যে টেক্সচার এবং স্ট্রাকচার তাকে নিগেট করে করে যাচ্ছি। সুতরাং এটা ঠিক বিশ্বাসের ব্যাপার না, এটা একটা কবওয়েভ অফ পুলস, যেখানে একদিকে রয়েছে হচ্ছে গৃহবাদী দর্শন বা গৃহীরা, আর আরেক দিকে হচ্ছে সন্ন্যাসীরা। এটা কিন্তু ব্রাহ্মণ্যবাদী টেক্সটের মধ্যেও রয়েছে, যেখানে সন্ন্যাস একটা গুরুত্বপূর্ণ ভাবনা, জ্যোতি সন্ন্যাস, বানপ্রস্থ, নানান রকম ভাবে বিভিন্ন স্মৃতি সংহিতার মধ্যে তাদের কাজকর্ম কি হবে, এবং আশ্রম হিসাবে ব্রহ্মচর্য, গারস্থ, বানপ্রস্থ, সন্ন্যাস, এই আশ্রমিক যে স্ট্রাকচার, সেইখানে কার কি অবস্থান হবে, এবং খুব ইন্টারেস্টিং ব্যাপার এই যে বিশেষত আমাদের যে সমস্ত স্মৃতি সংহিতাগুলো আছে এবং মহাভারতকে একটা স্মৃতি টেক্সট মনে করা হয়, সেখানে দেখা যাচ্ছে এই যে র্যাডিক্যাল নিগেশনের যে ব্যাপারটা সবসময় দূরে সরিয়ে রাখা হচ্ছে। এবং মনুসংহিতা আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি, যদিও এই যে ব্রহ্মচর্য, গার্হস্থ্য, বানপ্রস্থ, সন্ন্যাসের যে একটা টেম্পোরাল অর্ডারিং রয়েছে, তার একটা এটাকে বলা যেতে পারে যে ডাইক্রনিক অর্ডারিং, ডাইক্রনিক সেন্স কন্ট্রোলের ব্যাপার রয়েছে। ডাইক্রনিক্যালি আমরা দেখছি যে এত বছর পর্যন্ত ব্রহ্মচর্য, এত বছর পর্যন্ত বানপ্রস্থ, সন্ন্যাস, এরকম ভাবে এইভাবে আমাদের জীবনটাকে যাবে। তখন বলছে যে সন্ন্যাস হতে পারবে তখনই সেই লোক যখন তার কোন ধরনের যৌন ক্ষমতা থাকবে না, এবং সে যখন তার নিজের ছেলের ছেলেকে মানে পুত্রাদিকে দেখতে পাবে বা জন্ম হবে, এবং সে হচ্ছে প্রায় মৃত্যু পথযাত্রী, তখন হচ্ছে সে সন্ন্যাস নিতে পারবে। সুতরাং এই যে র্যাডিক্যাল নিগেশনের ব্যাপারটা সবসময় এটা টেম্পার করে দেওয়া হচ্ছে, প্রশমিত করে দেওয়া হচ্ছে, বয়সটাকে সরিয়ে দিচ্ছে। 70 বছর হয়ে যাবে তারপরে সে সন্ন্যাস নিতে পারবে। একমাত্র এই যে এই ভাবনাটা, এটা সারা মানে গৃহবাদী দর্শনের মধ্যে সমস্ত জায়গায় আছে। একমাত্র জাবাল উপনিষদ বলে একটি টেক্সট আছে, খুব ছোট্ট একটা উপনিষদ, 4-5 পাতার উপনিষদ। সেইখানে একটা মারাত্মক কথা বলছেন যাজ্ঞবল্ক। তিনি বলছেন যে যদ হরেব বিরজত তদ অহরেব প্রব্রজত, যে মুহূর্তে আমার বিরজা জন্মাবে সেই মুহূর্তে আমি সন্ন্যাস নিতে পারবো। এইটা হচ্ছে র্যাডিক্যাল নিগেশন। এইটা হচ্ছে কর্মিক স্ট্রাকচার অফ ধর্ম বা কর্মিক স্ট্রাকচার অফ লাইফ as reflected, elaborated and eulogized in the Purva-Mimamsan orthodox system of thoughts that has been negated at this moment. এই ব্যাপারটা কিন্তু নিগেশন চলছে, কিন্তু তার একটা প্রতিঅক্ষ রয়ে গেছে, সেটা হচ্ছে হেটেরোডক্স ট্র্যাডিশনের মধ্যে বা শ্রমণবাদী যে চিন্তা সূত্রের মধ্যে দিয়ে পাওয়া যাচ্ছে। মহাভারতে এইটার একটা কম্প্রোমাইজ ফর্মুলা তৈরি করছে। মহাভারতে আমরা মোক্ষ ধর্ম পর্বে যখন যাচ্ছি বা আশ্রম বার্ষিক পর্ব, সেখানে দেখা যাচ্ছে কনস্ট্যান্টলি ওই যুধিষ্ঠির বা ধৃতরাষ্ট্র, তারা ধৃতরাষ্ট্র, কুন্তি এবং গান্ধারী যখন তপস্যা করছে, দেহের মধ্যে নানান রকম দেহপাতি সাধনায় যখন নিরত, তখনও দেখা যাচ্ছে ওই গৃহবাদী চিন্তা এসে ভেতরে ঢুকে পড়ছে, প্রশমিত করার চেষ্টা করছে। আনৃশংস হচ্ছে সেই কনসেপ্টটাকে নিয়ে চলে আসে। একটা মধ্যবর্তী ফর্মুলা বলা যেতে পারে। এইটা হচ্ছে ব্যাপার। আচ্ছা, আমি অনেকগুলো প্রশ্ন দেখতে পাচ্ছি, কিন্তু এখানে কিভাবে দেখা যেতে পারে?
হ্যাঁ, আমি বলছি।
ঠিক।
The next question is from Buddhadev Burman. What is the difference between action and religion?
Religion is something which is here. Dharma is more important. Religion is quite a different kind of thing, and there the idea of morality, ethics, all other things are coming in, are joined in. But as far as dharma is concerned, it is a kind of existential, everyday, quotidian kind of living, quotidian existence. And in that quotidian existence, we are constantly performing some kind of acts. And action is a very stricted, loaded metaphor, concept metaphor. Karma is something that is, I'm constantly spotlighting on this thing, that you have to perform something without your voluntarism. There is a charter, well-charter kind of things are there, and you have to move on into that system, and you have to mechanically performing all these things. That is the action. That is karma. And that has been later elaborated and redefined in the 19th century after Bankim, Rammohn and other thinkers. And they reinterpreted the hermeneutic kind of thing, and that hermeneutic readjustment happened in the late 19th century, when karma is considered kaj, where voluntarism is involved. And that is a different kind of politics. But religion is quite a different kind of thing. It is not associated with our dharma kind of vision of life. That is the thing. But karma is translated as action rather than deed, where intentionality is not involved.
Yes. The next question is from Tanmoy Mohanto. হস্তিনাপুরের সিংহাসনের জন্য কাকাতো ভাই কৌরব এবং পাণ্ডবদের মধ্যে দুটি গোষ্ঠীর মধ্যে একটি রাজবংশীয় উত্তরাধিকারের জন্য যুদ্ধ শুরু হয়েছিল। তাও কেন কিছু কিছু ক্ষেত্রে দ্রৌপদীকে এই মহাভারতের যুদ্ধের কারণ বলা হয়? This is what he asks. Even though the conflict was for the throne, why is Draupadi taken to be the reason for the battle of Kurukshetra? This is
very important question. এই যে এই বইটার নাম যে বললো, এই যে মহাভারত হিংসা যে দেখতে পাচ্ছি, এটা নিয়ে এখানে প্রচুর আলোচনা আছে। এই জিনিসটা নিয়ে একটা পয়েন্ট হচ্ছে যে এই দুই কুরু ক্ল্যান এবং পাণ্ডব ক্ল্যান, এই দুটোর মধ্যে যখন একটা মীমাংসা বা সন্ধির জায়গা আসা হচ্ছে, তখন কৃষ্ণকে দূত হিসাবে পাঠানোর কথা বলা হচ্ছে। এবং ভীম, যে কিনা সবচেয়ে এই কৌরবদের উপর সবচেয়ে যার মানে বাংলায় যাকে বলে খার ছিল, রাগ ছিল, সে তখন বলছে যে শান্ত কথায় দুর্যোধনকে তুষ্ট করো, ওর সাথে কিন্তু মানে খুব কড়া ভাষায় কোনো ধরনের কথা বলো না। কৃষ্ণ বলছে এই ভীমকে দেখে মনে হচ্ছে যেন ভারহীন পর্বত, তাপহীন অগ্নি। ভীমের মধ্যে এই ক্রূরতা তখন আর নেই, নিষ্ঠুরতা নেই। এবং সবাই যখন একটা সন্ধির, একটা চুক্তির জায়গায় আসছে, একটা মীমাংসার দিকে, নিষ্পত্তির দিকে এগোচ্ছে, তখন আমরা মহাভারত একটা চমৎকার জায়গা লক্ষ্য করি। দুটো দিক, একটা হচ্ছে যে এই দ্রৌপদীর প্রশ্নটা আমি ফিরে আসছি, তার আগে আমি একটা মোমেন্টকে আমি চিহ্নিত করছি, কেন এই যুদ্ধকে থেকে বেরিয়ে আসা যাচ্ছে না, যুদ্ধকে বন্ধ করা যাচ্ছে না। একদম যুদ্ধের প্রাক মুহূর্তে আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি যে যখন যুদ্ধ শুরু হবে এবং পঞ্চজন্য শঙ্খে ফু দিয়ে যুদ্ধটা যখন শুরু হবে, তখন আমরা যুদ্ধের পটভূমিতে দেখতে পাচ্ছি যে যুধিষ্ঠির দৌড়ে দৌড়ে আসছে এবং যুদ্ধ চাই না এই বলে, যুদ্ধ বন্ধ হোক এই বলে কুরু আচার্য যে দ্রোণ, ভীষ্ম, দ্রোণ, কৃপ, তাদের কাছে তাদের পায়ে গিয়ে পড়ছেন এবং উনি বলছেন যে আমি এই যুদ্ধ চাই না, এই ভাতৃঘাতী যুদ্ধ বন্ধ হোক। তখন ওরা একটা মারাত্মক ফেটকা জবাব দিচ্ছে, খুব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। তারা বলছেন যে আমরা কৌরবের কাছে অন্যের ঋণে ঋণী। এটা সুকুমারী ভট্টাচার্য চমৎকার ভাবে দেখাচ্ছেন, তার প্রবন্ধ সংগ্রহের মধ্যে রয়েছে যে এই অন্যের ঋণে ঋণী জন্য আমরা ঋণ শোধ করার জন্য আমাদের যুদ্ধটা করতে হবে, আর নইলে ঋণ খেলাপ করব। আমাদের এই মহাভারত হিংসা এই বইটার মধ্যে একটা মস্ত প্রবন্ধ রয়েছে, যেখানে এই ঋণ ব্যাপারটা কিভাবে আমাদের আত্মধারণের সাথে যুক্ত সেটা আলোচনা করা হয়েছে। এটা একটা মানে এপিস্টেমোলজিক্যাল ইন্টারভেনশনের জায়গা, যে এই যে ডেট সেটা কিভাবে ইজ কানেক্টেড উইথ আওয়ার সেলফ প্রিজার্ভেশন। সুতরাং কোনোভাবেই যুদ্ধকে বন্ধ করা যাচ্ছে না। এবং দ্বিতীয় যে প্রশ্নটা, যেটা হচ্ছে দ্রৌপদীর প্রশ্নটার সাথে যুক্ত, সেটা হচ্ছে যখন এই সন্ধির বা চুক্তির জায়গা বা নিষ্পত্তির জায়গায় এগোচ্ছে, সেই মুহূর্তে দ্রৌপদী এসে বাধা দিলেন যে যদি উনি বলছেন যে আমার যে স্বামীরা, এই পঞ্চস্বামী যদি কোনো ধরনের সন্ধি বা চুক্তির দিকে যান, তাহলে আমার এই মুক্ত বেনি যেই কেশ আকর্ষণ করেছিল দুঃশাসন, সেই দুঃশাসনের পাংশ গুণ্ঠিত দেহ এবং মুখকে তোমরা স্মরণ করো। ওর ওই মাথাকে যদি আমি উপড়ে না ফেলতে পারি, তাহলে আমার ভেতরকার কোনো ধরনের ক্ষোভ কোনোদিনই পরিপূর্ণ হবে না, ক্ষোভ উপড়ে যাবে না। সুতরাং এইটাই হচ্ছে প্রাথমিক কাজ। সেই সময় দ্রৌপদীর একটা রৌদ্র রস, আমরা যেটা রসশাস্ত্রের মধ্যে দিয়ে পড়ি, সেই রৌদ্র রসের বিভাব একদম দ্যুতিময় হয়ে ওঠে সেই মুহূর্তে, এবং পঞ্চস্বামীকে বলছে যে তোমরা যদি নাও পারো, তাহলে আমরা দ্রুপদের কন্যা, আমার যে 5 ভাই আছে, আমার যে ভাই, তাদেরকে সঙ্গে নিয়ে আমি যাজ্ঞসেনীর কথা বলছি, তাহলে আমি কুরুদের বিরুদ্ধে যুদ্ধ করব। এবং কৃষ্ণকে বলছে যে তুমি যদি এই ব্যাপারটাকে তুমি যদি নিষ্পত্তির দিকে নিয়ে যাও, তাহলে তোমার সঙ্গে আমার সম্পর্কের কোনো শেষ। সুতরাং এই মুহূর্তটা খুব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ মুহূর্ত। এই মুহূর্তটাই কিন্তু মহাভারতের মহাযুদ্ধের দিকে আমাদের টেনে নিয়ে যাচ্ছে। সেই জায়গা থেকে দেখলে মনে হয় যে দ্রৌপদীর কোথাও একটা যোগ রয়েছে। চতুর্বেদী বদ্রীনাথের একটা বই আছে যে উইমেন ইন দ্য মহাভারত।
Anirban, just in this context, I can't resist myself by asking one question. According to yourself, who is the most empowered woman in the Mahabharata?
That is a difficult question, because Mahabharata ultimately is a patriarchally inscribed text, and
Very true, very true.
empowerment is a difficult kind of question, but rather loosely saying, Draupadi has kinds of moments when she can have her agential power, that the approach toward gaining a kind of agency, and that may be a kind of negative kind of thing by through experiencing a pain, a kind of a combustion, an inner kind of pain that she is constantly feeling. So the idea of empowerment is quite difficult as far as Mahabharata text is considered. But there are moments when Draupadi and other women can exercise their
even Kunti to some extent, I guess.
Yes. There are some moments when they can rock up the other things and move toward approaching toward an agency. Power to act moment. There are some moments are there.
Anyway, sorry for the digression. You continue your question with your questions.
The question, very important question.
So should I take the next question?
Sure.
Yes. The next question is from Amit Bormon. How does the game of dicing impact on the battle of Kurukshetra? He's asking about the impact of the game of dice on the battle of Kurukshetra.
That is there. Actually, the dice game is the germinating moment from which the idea of war and violence actually erupts. That is the interrupted moment, because that is the moment when Yudhishthira and all the Pandavas are losing all their kinships and all these things, and that is the moment when the Kauravas, and especially Dhritarashtra, that I have located and spotlighted during my lecture, that he is also involved this kind of quite obsessed with this kind of gambling. So there is a slight kind of impact, of course, there as far as the Kurukshetra war is concerned, because it is the germinating moment when the Pandava brothers are losing all their kingdoms and all these things, and Draupadi is being considered as Dasi, and Draupadi at a later moment, she is actually defying and unsettling all these things that are going to be settled down. So that moment is the interrupted moment, of course, I think. So.
Yes, the next question is from Sriparna Dotto. Sir, can you please re-elaborate briefly? I think this is an oxymoron. Re-elaborate briefly. Anyway, can you please re-elaborate briefly the concept of body in your talk? The concept of body which you have talked about in your speech. She wants to know a bit more about this.
Yeah, that's a difficult take. So I have tried to actually see, as Sharon actually located that in the Hegelian parlance, the body is considered something unmediated. In the Hegelian graph, of course, as far as the master-slave relationship is considered, the unmediated natural body, thus naturaliste unmittelbar, that is in the Hegelian text, that is in the Phenomenologie der Geist. So, and as you are using the term body as against spirit or mind, der Geist, that is in the Liberaliskeit. So that is that unmediated, that is beyond being mediated, that a kind of naturalness is there, naturally mediated, before being linguistified or Aufhebend, before being linguistified. That body is considered a stranger. Will you be my thing? That thingness is imposed on the body. I'm actually trying to focus and highlight on the unmediated nature of that body, other than the body when it is linguistified, inscripted, patriarchally inscripted, or any other inscription can be considered, not within the sign system kind of thing. I am just trying to locate in my lecture that unmediated naturalness of body and how it is getting connected with the idea of serfdom, servitude, and is there a kind of natural bonding is there, or it is also a construction kind of thing. That confusion or that paradox or that contradiction, I have just tried to enter into that, tried to locate in my talk, in my consideration. That is the thing. But otherwise, body is a kind of big shot kind of thing that we can elaborate on, try to discuss on.
Next question is from Apsana Khatun. The game of dice is used as a trap, a means to avenge, but Yudhishthira takes it like a moral act, bears all the responsibilities that it brings onto the table. Is he trying to glorify the game here? How a game, something that's meant for passing idle time and fun, becomes more important than even the king? Or is it all about the player? The game is important only because it is played by a king, amongst the kings and princes.
Well, sorry to interrupt, Anirbanda and Swarnoda. Since we are running short of time, I would request Anirbanda to take all the questions at a time and then answer it at a time. Okay, because we have to take observations of our colleagues if they have any questions, and we have to conclude it by 1:30 because of the technical reasons, because this session is being recorded.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let me read out. There are two more questions. Ishita Dash has asked, why is the loss of Yudhishthira's dice called the dark time of India's fall? And Potik Sharkar has asked, sir, what is more important, dharma or karma? More people are asking questions, but we are very sorry. We will try to answer them later. I mean, we will surely send these questions to the speaker, but within this limited time, we shall not be able to take all these questions.
Yes, thank you, Sharon. Thank you. Thank you so much. So these are the questions actually related with the game of dice at the Sabha Parva. And if there are other questions, you can send me through email. I will try to answer. I will attempt to answer this question and send them back. So as far as the dice game is concerned, as Apsana has put forward a question that actually gambling, dicing, womanizing, and drinking, these are the four vices that are considered very substantially strong as far as the very trickstering is considered. So, and gambling is the third one before the womanizing kind of thing, more pernicious to drinking and other things. So, but here the game of dice is quite crucial and significant because it is attuned and attached with the idea of Rajasuya Yagya and Abhisheka, the consecration of the king into the throne. So it is a part of the Rajasuya ritual because the Ashtamedha kind of thing, the horse sacrifice is being done, and it is a sequel kind of thing. It is a supplement to that ritual sacrifice, and it is also considered not a negative kind of thing, not a vice, rather it is a part of the ritual sacrifice that the king has to perform and play. King has to involve himself into the courts of gambling. because it is part of the ritual. Therefore, here gambling is, in a way, if we say very loosely, upgraded from its status of vice. And it is then connected with kingship, kingdom, royalty, and all these kinds of things. So gambling is not considered some kind of vice that is charted, elaborated, and absolutely negated and denied in Samhitas and other texts. But here in the Mahabharata, this game of dice is very crucial because it is again connected with, first, it is a supplementary part of the ritual sacrifice that is called Rajasya, the consecration of the king, is entitlement. It is connected with kingship and kingdom, and also it is a defining moment because it is again challenged by the Kuru clan, who are challenging the kingdom, and they are considering themselves as the automatic, by default heir of the kingdom. So the game of dice is very important as far as Mahabharata narrative is considered, and it is the very political moment as far as the text is considered. And having some kind of, if we elaborate also the epistemological moment, because I have stated, or I have attempted to discuss about this thing when Draupadi is considering a stake and questioning that is it a valid one.
Okay, we can take one or two more questions, then we will go into the discussion if it has by any of our colleagues. So Sarananda, please read out at least one or two questions, not more than that.
Okay, Ishita Das has asked, why is the loss of Yudhishthira's dice called the dark time of India's fall? And Potik Sharkar has asked, sir, what is more important, dharma or karma? If you briefly answer these two questions, we can draw the session to a close.
Great. Thank you. So a dark time, because it is the foreboding moment. We are surmising that something is difficult situation, the moment of violence and war are arriving at this moment. So game of dice is actually implying or actually implicating that moment, that is signifying that moment, that something ominous is going to happen at this moment, because the Kauravas will not, that is the sloka, je bina juddhe nahi debo suchagro medini. Ei je byaparta, that is there as far as the dice game is considered. So that is ominously forwarding something, that the violence, war, and all these things, destruction is coming. That is on a global scale, large scale destruction, epical scale destruction is coming. And the game of dice is the particular moment that is again connected with the universal concept of destruction. It is the germinating moment. It is the moment of inception. That is the idea of destruction, destructio, that is within the self-preserving factors, condition, human condition, that is there, that is inbuilt, organic to myself, that is there, and that is getting universalized, getting universalized as far as the game of dice is connected with the theme of destruction, as Mahabharata elaborates and eulogizes in the text. So that is the thing. And the difference between dharma and karma, these are the things are quite interrelated as far as Indian philosophical systems are concerned, especially the orthodox systems are concerned. Karmas are, that is, the unintentional, logical and rational activities that you have to involve yourself, you have to perform every day. And dharma is something that is a kind of ritual living as far as Indian orthodox system is concerned. But there are other definitions, and all negation of the definitions are there as far as Dhamma and Karma are concerned. So these are the things.
Since there are only two questions left, so we will take that, and after that we will not take any more questions. So Arnudha, please read out those two questions.
Shudev Mundal has asked, the ghosts of justice, the significance of this title and the term ghosts, not ghost. Does this mean that there is no justice at all? Sir, you can please explain it.
Yes. The idea is there. The sense is there. The ghost. It is actually in connection with the specters of Marx, the ghosts of justice. That it is not the single one, not the particular one. It is not singularly conceived of, conceptualized. There are multiple kind of eruptions are there, interruptions are there, and Mahabharata narrative is actually focusing and highlighting all these interruptive moments. It is not a single interruptive moment. There are multiple levels of interruptions there, and this is the moment that I call ethical avenir. Avenir is a French term that actually implies to calmness of the moment. It is coming, it is perpetually arriving, it never arrives. That moment, but we have to move towards it. That is like the futural. We are moving toward the future, but we never grasp it in its own essence. We cannot grab it, grip it. That is the concept. We cannot grab it. That kind of non-physicality is there, and justice is something that is quite thought of in abstraction, and that is coming, that is arriving, and throughout the text, as we venture out and navigate throughout the text, that it is we are moving toward the ethical moment, but it never arrives. It remains by coming.
The last question, this is from Nabonita Sarkar. Why is Dharma the most important?
That is a foundational question. That is a very basic question as Indian text concerned, especially Mahabharata. So Dharma is again associated with our everyday living. We are doing anything, the root verb is dri, that is holding us, and we are held by Dharma. As the householder, where the term is grihastha, house holds him and the man is held by the house. So in householder-centric discourse, that is griha-centric discourse, Dharma is something that actually predominates and dominates our everyday life. It is the predominating and foundational and founding factor, the governing factor, and we are constantly being governed by the logics, by the reasoning of the Dharma. Dharma is actually, if we take into account the Kantian term, that is practical reason. That is practical reason. That is actually associated with my life, with the everyday life, with my quotidian existence. So Dharma is very much organic to my living. Therefore, it is very important.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anirban Bhattacharjee, for this, and thanks to everybody who asked questions.
Sharnada, just a second. We have with us our Teachers Council Secretary, Dr. Bipul Mondal. I would request Bipul Da to share his observation or questions if he has any. Bipul Da. বিপুল দা শুনতে পাচ্ছেন? Well, I think he has network issues. Please continue, Sharnada.
Okay. It's really sad, but this session is coming to a close. How I wish that it could go on for at least 2 or 3 hours more. Then perhaps it would have been a more fulfilling experience. Anyway, there always are constraints of time. So with a very heavy heart, may I request our respected NAC coordinator, Professor Dr. Chandan Rai, who is also the head of the Department of Economics, to deliver the valedictory speech and to declare the end of this session. Chandanda, please.
Well, on behalf of IQAC Kaliyaganj College, I would profusely thank our today's speaker, our guest of honor, Dr. Anirban Bhattacharjee, for his wonderful, mesmerizing talk on the ghosts of justice and game of dice, reading of the Sabha Parva of Mahabharata. He has ignited our minds, young minds of the students. He has provoked the thoughts within us. He has mesmerized us. I have really, just like Sharon, I want to say shorts of words to express how we feel really. So we are really thankful to you, Anirban, and we really want to invite you once again to come to our college and deliver a lecture like this. And face to face, we want to meet you. And we really want to thank, on behalf of IQAC, I really want to thank Head of the Department of English, Department Kaliyaganj College, as well as the other departmental members for taking up all these activities, these sustained efforts. This is the third lecture series, I guess, they're just moving with. And I really wish them best of luck. I really want to thank all the students who are quite, what should I say, they are quite studious, and they are quite efficient in asking difficult questions at a time, and they're quite what sort of I have already I think I have already said enough about them, and I really want to thank the other members, the other teaching fraternities. I guess Dhritiman was present over there. I have just seen his name. And there are some other teachers from the schools and other colleges, I also guess, in this long list. So I also want to thank them because their presence has made us, has enriched us, I also want to thank the Google format, the Google platform, because they have given us the chance and we have hosted this program out of cost. So these are the long list I have covered, and I really want to thank Anirban once again, and on behalf of our Honorable Principal Sir, I declare end of this session. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Do you have any other kind of announcement, Tushar? You can make it.
Actually, one name is left, which I must mention. Is Chirantun.
Yeah, please. Chirantun. Chirantun has
provided us with all the technical necessities. Thank you, Chirantun, and thank you, Chandanda, for offering the trouble to, and thank you, thank you, Anirban also for accepting our invitation. And Chandanda, Anirban has expressed his desire to visit our college in person, and so probably by the end of the year we will get Anirban.
That's really great. That's really great.
With this note, and by thanking Anirban, we should close here. Thank you.
Thank you, Tushar. Thank you, Professor Rai, and thank you, Sharon, for this excellent arrangement. Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
And with this, we over.